What's up guys, it's Talon here. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my personal ranking of every single Fortnite season. But without further ado, let's just jump right in. Starting off, we have Chapter 2, Season 1. This season for me was awful. I'm going to put it into the D category. Now, this is when I switched from console to PC, and this was also the start of my more competitive side of Fortnite. And for me, this season was one of the worst simply due to the fact that the loot pool was very small. I believe there was shotgun, AR, sniper, and grenades, and that was really about it in competitive. It was squads, which wasn't really that enjoyable in my opinion for competitive. And not to mention, this season was like 6 months long and they made no updates, and it was one of the most stalest, most boring times of Fortnite, something we hadn't experienced yet. And I just remember this season droning on, and also there was no mobility, so everything was a running simulator, and I was getting adjusted from switching from the level of console players to PC, so just for me, not the best season. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 1. Fortunately, didn't play this season, so I can't give my opinion. However, I feel like it would have just been fun because no one had any idea what was going on at that current point. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 10. This is the mech season, which I'm going to be putting it in the F category. By far, one of the most worst seasons in Fortnite. Gotta be bottom 3 in my opinion. I just didn't enjoy dying to mechs every single game. I just didn't enjoy this season like every other season in Chapter 1. Everything for me in Chapter 1 was such a treat, and this was just kind of a sour note. And it was really unfortunate that this kind of led into Chapter 2 because it was kind of really started more of, I would say, after the peak of Fortnite. This is like the first signs of things going majorly downhill was the mechs, especially, you know, being in competitive playlists, which I couldn't even understand at the time. But this season is awful, so yeah. Coming up next, we have Chapter 2 Season 2. This is going to be an A season. Now, in terms of competitive integrity, this was not the best season. However, this was when aim assist was incredibly strong. This was Mythic Drum Gun. This was the Mythic Scar. This was the, I can't remember, the Grappler, Infinite Grappler. This season was incredibly fun to play. There was daily cups. This was during COVID, so they just ran these daily cups since everyone was at home already. This was one of the most fun times of Fortnite, and just getting into competitive, I wish I had gotten in sooner to maybe have done a little bit better, but this was one of the most fun periods of Fortnite. Chapter 2 Season 2 was such an upgrade compared to Chapter 1 Season 2. Or excuse me, Chapter 2 Season 1. Next up, we have Chapter 2 Season 3, and I'm gonna give this a C. This season wasn't bad per se, but this was the first season that they removed the pump shotgun, so it took a little bit of adjustment, and not a lot of people like the charge, and the charge has kind of grown on people overall as just Fortnite's kind of evolved and progressed. However, you know, tac charge meta wasn't the greatest or most enjoyable. There was some really solid POIs in the season. I just think this is kind of like a mid-season. There's nothing about it that there's not super fond memories. There's not super negative memories about this season. Coming up next, we have Stark Season, which of course is going to get an A. Everyone who played Stark Season knew how incredibly fun it was. This was bouncer shockwave meta. This was getting the spaz at the vaults. This was kind of like mongrel season, for, you know, from a watcher's standpoint. This season was just a ton of fun. You wanted to get on and play every day. Stark rifles, pumps, hitting one pumps. Man, this season was fantastic to play, and I really am glad to see Fortnite kind of getting back to this finally, which I'll get on later on. Next up, we have Chapter 2 Season 5. Now, this is probably going to surprise a lot of people, but for me, this is the best season of all time, and I'm going to explain why. For me, I played this season probably more than any other season, just due to the fact it was so enjoyable from a competitive balance standpoint. This is when I really started getting seasoned and playing pretty much just competitive completely. Other seasons I had intermixed pubs every day. This was just arena, creative, preparing. This was sand season. This was the bouncer and the most balanced shotgun meta I can remember in a long time. You had the lever, which is one of my favorite shotguns of all time. It's sad that they've destroyed it to the way that they have now. However, it was that, charge, and tac, and there was really a shotgun for everyone, and not any one really had such a significant advantage. The movement was balanced. It was easy to get around the map with, I believe there was crystals as well as the sand. So this season for me was by far one of my favorites, and is honestly gonna get my favorite because I have such fond memories of it. Coming up next, we have Chapter 2 Season 6. Now, this season for me is interesting because this is the first time I believe in Fortnite, besides like the P90 update that lasted less than 24 hours, where a weapon was just so overwhelmingly broken that everyone couldn't stand it, and they had to keep nerfing this shotgun into the ground. But I played this season, I believe, in terms of getting arena points more than any other season, maybe just due to my situation, but this season kind of was not that great. I'm gonna probably put it, I think you have to put it in the C category. It did have spaz. The annoying thing also was fighting with makeshift weapons, and this was like playing Minecraft. You had to get parts to get your weapons a lot better, which wasn't really an enjoyable aspect. However, it wasn't stale and dry as Chapter 2 Season 1, so I'm just give it slightly the edge, and I do think that Season 3 was definitely better. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 2. I played the last week of Chapter 1 Season 2, and I was a little newbie, but I did get the glider. However, I'm going to put it in didn't play. I didn't experience it enough to really know better. Oh man, Chapter 1 Season 3. This is like the birth of Fortnite for me, so it's just gonna simply get an A. This was the battle pass with the friends where everyone grinded to get, you know, John Wick. This was the feeling you saw John Wick in game. You were terrified for your life. This was playing with the homies. This is like peak OG Fortnite feel. You know, we're all rocking like Combat Pro, and like there's no Builder Pro, and just playing on controller is absolutely awful. So everyone on console is awful, and just no one is good. And then, you know, you play with someone that I had a guy who used I can't remember the name, but he was playing keyboard and mouse on console, and he was just dominant. So it was a lot of fun, man. I love that season. So it's just kind of like, for me, the actual birth of like me playing Fortnite. So it has a special place in my heart. Coming up next is Chapter 1 Season 4. This is a good season. This is like the Dusty Divot Hop Rock, and this is when I really started like trying to put effort to get playing in. This is still playing with the homies. However, it doesn't have the same amount of feel that Chapter 1 Season 3, so I'm gonna put it in the B tier, but it's still not a bad season at all. And like most of these ones in Chapter 1, there really isn't a lot wrong with them, in my opinion. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 5. The golf carts were a lot of fun. However, this is drum gun season, and I have more negative reactions to this season, I believe, than just because of the drum gun just being so annoying overall, and it kind of needing little tweaks here and there and just getting sprayed to death. So I'm going to put it in the C, but I still have fond memories of it. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 6. Now, for me, this was like where everyone had glider redeploy and the things were really dark. There was a lot of annoying things about this season. I think this is just a season I didn't really enjoy. Overall, I don't know. I don't really have any huge fond memories. I believe this is the introduction of turrets, so I'm actually going to put it in the C tier. I did enjoy it more than this gun, or not this gun, than Chapter 2 Season 1. Coming up next, we have Chapter 1 Season 7. For me, this has got to get an A, and probably one of the most favorite seasons for me personally. It can make a case overall. I love this season. I played so much of this season. This was the plane season. This is like solo squads, mongrel, Mr. Savage season. They had such a cool battle pass. I loved rocking the Link skin. I have so many fond memories. I played the absolute, just so much time playing this season. I absolutely love this season, so it's going to go into A tier for me. Coming up next is Chapter 1 Season 8. This is a quality season. This is where like the pirate ship Lazy Lagoon season. I thought the skins were super clean. You had like the tier 100 skin was clean. The starter skins were clean. That's one thing I kind of really do miss about OG Fortnite is this season. I don't know. It's a good solid season. I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I had no complaints about this season. I really enjoyed this season. Coming up next is Chapter 1 Season 9. This is World Cup meta. This is gonna go for A for me, and as you could see a lot of just Chapter 1's obviously kind of dominating it for me personally, but I think this season for me had to be just, I love this season. I played the absolute hell out of it. I just loved it. I like the combat meta. I don't know. I have a lot of fond memories of it. I loved watching the World Cup. It was just an incredibly special moment in like gaming for me to watch that World Cup. So I have such a strong attachment to this season. So this is going to get an A for me. I enjoyed playing it as well. Coming up next, we have, I believe, Chapter 2 Season 7. And this is going to just get like, I don't have a lot in D, but I can kind of put it in, I'm going to put it in, there's nothing really wrong with this season. This is like the perfect definition of like mid, I would say. I don't know. I think I'm at the end. I'm going to tweak this C category because I don't really have a lot in there, but it's just mid. There was nothing that's super exciting about it. This is like Chug Cannon, and I don't know. This was, I believe, the Aliens. You know what? I think I'm gonna just, yeah, I might tweak this at the end, but this was like the Alien season, and the alien ships being competitive in the beginning was incredibly just unbelievable. And I believe that's really all I have to say. Like, there isn't much. I don't have much memories or super fun memories of this. Next up, and last but not least, we have Chapter 2, Season 8. Now, for me, Chapter 2, Season 8 probably has to be, again, another... They didn't really... It was just like a carbon copy of Chapter 2, Season 7, minus, like, no aliens. I mean, the metas were the same, the map the same. This is when Chapter 2 got kind of stale. I'm going to just put it... I don't know. I'm going to put it in the D category, and I think I'm going to kind of tweak the C category at the end. Coming up next, we have Chapter 3, Season 1. This season gets an absolute F for me. This season, with the weakest shotguns, the most MK7 getting sprayed, the builds looking absolutely horrible, the Stinger SMG being constantly shoved down your throat, your shotgun hitting for 5. This season was one of the most just awful experiences. Chapter 3 as a whole was awful, and you're going to see that in my rankings, obviously. However, man, I don't know. This was such a tough decision of which season is the worst in chapter 3. It was just such a hard decision, but for me, just getting constantly sprayed was annoying. Now, next up, we have Chapter 3, Season 2. Now, for me, this is gonna go into the worst season of Fortnite of all time, because of this meta was the most frustrating thing you could possibly imagine. If you weren't getting barrel stuffed by the combat SMG, you were getting barrel stuffed by the drum gun, and it's just everything about this was so enjoyable. Every death was you getting double and triple sprayed with combat SMGs. There was no strong shotgun. Even when you were dying to shotguns, you were getting barrel stuffed with the drum gun. This was the most unenjoyable part of Fortnite, and I swear the entire year of Chapter 3, I was just in a constant state of anger playing this game, like trying to enjoy something I've enjoyed for so long. Like, Chapter 3 Season 2 was such a struggle. I am so glad we've gotten away from that. Coming up next is Chapter 3 Season 3. Now, for me, this season, it was a tolerable season because they kind of made it a little bit more balanced. They introduced Reality Falls, which I really liked. It was one of my favorite POI in Chapter 3. But I mean, overall, in terms of comparison of memories on this Fortnite list, I don't know. I'm gonna probably put it in the C tier, and like I said at the end, I'm gonna tweak the C tier. Coming up next, we have Chapter 3 Season 4. Now, this season was, for me, a struggle competitively. However, at least they kind of got away from the spray meta. They added the prime shotgun, which was like you had to be very conscientious with your reload. This was the Ranger shotgun, finally made it in competitive. I don't know. I struggled personally competitive this season, like performing and placing. However, I don't know. I didn't hate the season. This was like the most balanced competitive meta in Chapter 3. So it was kind of like a little bit of an uptick. It got away from the spray meta. Like, you could at least hit hard pumps with a prime and it was a little bit more enjoyable. I'm going to put it in the B tier. And again, like I said, I'm going to tweak C tier. Coming up next, we have Chapter 4 Season 1. This was... Honestly, I liked this season a lot. This season started off out pretty rough, so it's going to kind of hurt my ranking, and it got a lot better as time went on. They fixed the issues with the max to make the hammer a little bit more balanced. Now, I understand the hammer was incredibly greasy and cheese feeling, and it allowed me and my duo to be incredibly successful. I mean, we accumulated 4,000 PR in this season alone when we had struggled pretty much mightily competitively the last couple. We had made round 2s pretty consistently, but this was just the one where we made it into Challenger, replacing top 100. Like, it felt really enjoyably from like a competitive standpoint because of, you know, it wasn't like as difficult. But for me, like, and this got to where the Thunder was a much more enjoyable. I'm gonna put it in the B category, and the only reason why I'm putting it in the B category is due to the fact the hammer was kind of a little bit cheesy, and there is a lot of negative memories associated with the hammer, and just these other seasons just have a lot more positive memories around them. And last but not least, the current season. Now, do take this with a grain of salt because the season hasn't completed. However, in terms of hopping on and wanting to play, for me, this season, that is every day. And that is because the shotgun meta is so incredibly enjoyable. It hits hard. Like, montages are back with huge 1 pumps, 200 pumps are back, something we've been asking for forever. The map is really cool. The mobility is there with the katana, and you know, this is a really good start. If they change the zones, this could be the best season we probably ever had. This season is so enjoyable from an arena standpoint, to go in, fly around with katanas, constantly get keyed. It's a lot more balanced than the hammer, a lot more skillful. The plays are a lot more rewarding with the katana as opposed to the hammer. Like, you can actually get shot when you're just, you know, going up for height. You're not crashing through everyone's build and knocking everyone to fall damage. I'm gonna put this in the A category. So like I said, I'm gonna tweak my C, and I might tweak my A a little bit. I might move one of them down. I don't know, most of them are chapter 1, so I don't think I'm gonna move it. Chapter 8 is quality. Let's see here, let me go to the C tier. I think for me, I'm gonna move this one down because Fortnite Mirrors was so incredibly annoying. I remember that. And then I don't know, you have to kind of keep these two seasons, kind of need to also be in the same type of category. And there's nothing special about these seasons. There's no positive memory associations. They don't have quite the negative associations, but they're just incredibly mid. I'm gonna make it a little bit more balanced here. And as you can see, most of the obvious overly whelming positive ones are from chapter 1. You know, as one would expect. And I'm gonna look over this list and see if there's anything that I'd like to change, but I'm looking overall, and you know, I think it's, you know, it's kind of my opinion overall, and the only reason why I moved those down to D again is just because of the fact they're essentially carbon copies of the same, so if one's got to go, the other one's got to go with. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope that you did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications, and I hope I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.